Hello, Jalander.
Hello.
Hey, Emil.
Hey.
How was your holiday? Back already?
Yeah, I'm back already. It was just off 2 days. It was great. Good weather and good skiing.
Oh, nice.
Hi, Andrea. Hey.
Hello, down there.
Hey. Let me share.
Well, hello.
Hey, Ben.
Hi, Ben.
Hope you guys are
Hi,
doing well.
You are. So,
Yeah, and you?
Yeah, not too shabby. Been pretty busy. So yeah, I saw quite a few updates to that link proposal. So excited to get to discuss that.
Cool. All right. Well, it's 3 past. Let's get started. So welcome everyone to the CDEvents working group. My name is Andrea Frittoli, work for IBM. I'm in UTC, and as usual, feel free to add yourself to the participant list. Let me share some notes. That. Right. So the first thing I wanted to bring up that I have in the agenda today is the release 0.2. Hi, Evan. Thanks for joining. We're just starting. Yeah, so that was due yesterday actually, but it's almost everything is almost ready, I would say. So all the PRs that we had planned for the spec repo are merged. There's a new one I added today, which would be nice to have, I think. And it's about adding example files for all the events. So I use the Go SDK to help generate this. And basically, yeah, it's just adding small example files. And the other thing that it adds, as you suggested, Emil, a simple CI job that actually validates the examples against the schema.
great.
And you can see it running in here. Validate examples. And yeah, it just goes through all the examples and checks them. Right, so that's the only bit that I think would be nice to have this in for the 0.2. But
did you actually say you generate the examples from the Go SDK, or you didn't hand code them? Or
well, I add those examples in the Golang SDK as well. Actually, they were embedded in the Go test code. So I kind of extrapolate them into files and tune them a little bit with better
I was
test
just
data.
thinking if we should update them eventually, would we then need to update the Go examples as well, or I think, or the test cases there? Should they be in sync?
Yes. So in the SDK, I started using the schemas directly from the spec repo. And I plan, I've not got to it yet, but I plan to start consuming those examples directly as well.
I was more thinking the other way around. Since you now generated the examples from the Go SDK, should we continue doing that if we want to update the examples so that we cannot update the examples here explicitly? We need to go to the Go SDK to update the examples, or is it okay that they somehow diverge? if you get what I mean. Well, except what I'm after, I guess, is if we should have them in sync and we should take it from the Go SDK, we should probably write some documentation about that here, that please don't update the examples explicitly, but instead regenerate them from an updated Go SDK test case or whatever.
Right. Yeah, my plan was actually to use the one from the spec as for the test cases in the SDK, because then we can use them for all the SDKs as test cases.
Yeah. So
to have the spec one as a reference, yeah, and also then we can, when we make the changes to the spec, we can make changes to the example at the same time, and then when we sync the SDK, we pull in the new schemas and the new examples.
That's good.
Okay. So, but apart from this PR, everything else is in ready for the 0.2. So all the schema IDs point to the 0.2 version. Yeah. So everything else is ready. And for the website, I have a PR up, which is also ready and have been reviewed. Thanks, Emil, for the review there as well. And so once these two are merged, I think next step would be to make the tag on the spec, do the release notes, merge the PR website, and then I would continue the work on the Golang SDK. So in terms of Golang SDK, I added support for multiple versions, as the way we discussed last time. So the SDK now always produces the last version. That is, so if I'm using SDK version 0.1, it will produce at 0.1. If it's 0.2, it will produce 0.2, and so forth. And when consuming event, it's able to parse both future and old versions, as long as they're compatible. So different patch level or different minor level. In case of different minor level, if there is difference in like extra data for future version, it is ignored for now. So we may find a different way to do that in future. Maybe take the extra data and put it in some struct, into some object. Yeah. But yeah, so that's basically how it is in the SDK today. I also did the release 0.11 and 0.12 for the SDK that we didn't have, because we didn't have support for multiple versions in the past. And I updated the main branch up to 0.12. Yeah, and I'm waiting for the spec release to actually finish the work on the 0.2 for the SDK. So that's the current status.
I'm looking at the issue in the spec repo for releasing 0.2 and the checklist we have there for the release itself. We miss the tagging operation in that checklist right now. So I was thinking if I should just add it. Is there some other things? The issue 111, if you would open that one. That one, yeah. So we have the checklist there. And we don't mention that we need to tag the release or the code base. I guess that should be done before we actually merge CDEvents.dev, right? That's not necessary since you point to the latest, but
yeah. I can, so I added it there.
Yeah. And then we state prepare a release announcement should we maybe, I mean, we don't have a process document where we state how to release the protocol. So I guess this is more or less the process we follow, and we copy this from every time. So we should probably also include a statement on announcing it on Slack and on mail lists. Is this a proper place to do that, or should we have that in some other place? I think we should actually have a document for it somewhere eventually, but for now.
Yeah. But this issue you created is great, because then we can add things, and then we can just take this and put it in a document. So that's fine.
But maybe we want to have the mail list announcement and the Slack announcement in this as well then.
Sorry, just a second. Sorry about that. Sorry, what did you say about?
I think we should also
add?
add. Yeah, I think we should add as well here to announce the release on Slack channel and mail list. As another checklist box. Yeah. Because there isn't anything else we do, right? We don't create any blog post or anything like that.
We can.
Yeah, of course we can, but we don't. Have we done that? Well,
we've done it for 0.1 because it was the first release.
Yeah.
And I think we plan to announce 0.3 CDCon probably. So we will do it for that one as well. We might do it for this one as well. But I don't know.
I don't think we need to. We can spend time on pull requests instead, I would say, for this release. It's not so critical that we announce this one through a blog post, I think. But the next one for CDCon, it's more important, I think.
Yeah, and we can bundle kind of the features from this one, the next one in the blog post.
Yeah. So if you don't see anything else that needs to be done, I think this list is now complete.
May I ask, have y'all thought about doing GitHub releases? So I was trying to research how to automate the changelog and the Jenkins CI Helm charts. I've been kind of just slowly trying to help out there, very slowly, but they do GitHub releases. And I was looking at their GitHub actions, trying to automate this for the Python SDK. I don't know if y'all thought about doing that, where people can basically sign up for notifications on GitHub releases that then is tied to minor, major, and patch releases, since we're following sim verbs. I don't know if that's been discussed before, just curious.
Yeah, we definitely plan to use GitHub releases, so we use them. So we have the current releases on that, so we plan to continue that. For the Go SDK, what I've done, there is a new tool. I think that's the one that you're probably referring to as well. That it's quite handy. It generates you the release notes even.
Yeah.
Right. So what I've been doing for the SDK is basically I do the tag manually because I prefer to do it from the command line. And then when you go in releases and you draft a new release, you can pick a tag and you can pick the one that you created.
Okay.
And let's say, well, yeah, this is an hour already. I don't have a tag to make an example, but basically you do it and then you say generate release notes here, and it automatically creates for you this kind of release notes with a list of main changes, a link to the full change log, list of contributors, and yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, and you're right. I think that's good, Evan, that you bring it up, because I think we should then maybe have this as well on the checklist, that we should actually really draft the release here as well. So we don't forget to do that. And if there is any separate instruction needed for that, we should.
That's great. I didn't look at the spec releases. I was looking at the other SC, like I was looking at the Python SDK. I was like, okay, how can I automate this? And so it's just, I've been having fun learning GitHub Actions. So I was like, what could we do that's fancy and fun here? So that's awesome.
Well, you for SDK, you can further automate it. So you could listen to the tag event that is coming from GitHub and automatically generate the release on that with something. I'm sure there is some kind of GitHub actions that will do that. So, but for now, yeah.
No, that's cool. Sorry, I do not mean to interrupt. So sorry. This is fun. So.
Okay, that's a good point. So the list keeps growing, but it's good. So we don't forget about steps. All right. Right, so maybe we can add this to the release steps as well. I was just thinking. So the next, it's not strictly part of the release, but I think it's a good thing to have. So basically, once all this is done, move main onto 0.3-draft so that anything new that goes in terms of PR is considered part of the new release. Okay. All right. Well, if we can merge this the spec PR today or tomorrow, once that's merged, I can go through the rest of the other process. I'm happy to do that unless someone wants to. Yeah, I want to do it. Okay. So what I can do once I go through the process, then I'll make sure if there is any extra step that I find, I'll add them to the list and prepare a document then for that. Okay. Okay. Anything else on the release? Yeah. Yeah.
If you do need help, let me know. I've just been trying to focus on the Python SDK. So if you need help on that and that's a higher priority, just let me know. I have about an hour or so each evening. I'm trying to commit. But I've just been focusing on Python SDK. So let me know what needs to be moved in priority level.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I think well, Python SDK is the next topic on the agenda. Maybe I think it will be great actually to move along with the Python SDK. I mean, if you think we can get in a state where we could release the Python SDK on the 0.2 as well in some time, not to that would be great, because then we could add that to the list of the SDKs. Yeah.
I didn't update HackMDM. I'm so sorry, I forgot to, but I can give a quick update if you would like on
Yes,
what I've been
please.
working on. So I have the CI linting working in my local. I want to get I'm doing everything through like Fidelity to get input from people to see. But I have the CI linting working using Flake 8, basically just checking and if there is a format issue. So I ignored Flake 8 wants it over 79 characters it doesn't like, and then imports. But other than that, it is running per push and per pull request. So I've got the CI linting good to go for the releasing this to the Python, packaging it, releasing it so people can install it through pip. Someone maybe it was through a Hacktoberfest already has the framework there, but I think it was maybe copied from a generic template. So you need to go in, customize that, and then we'll have through pull requests the ability through a GitHub action to automatically deploy that. We need 1 or 2 files. One's called a TOML file, which is just kind of like a POM file for Java, but it's kind of metadata about the package, any dependencies that need to be involved. So I've started working on that. I got from Eric the contributors list. So there's 3 of us in total. So I've started outlining that, just haven't pushed it yet because I also wanted to look at changelog automation. So that's kind of where my time has been. Hope that helps. So I'll have those pull requests probably in hopefully the coming week. I've kind of been all over the place reading through stuff, had to fix one issue, one of the CI GitHub checks or GitHub actions, sorry, was failing. So I had to go fix that. But that was fun. I got to learn about GitHub actions. So that's where I've been putting my time for the Python SDK.
Cool. That's pretty good. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for letting me play with it. It's been fun.
Okay. Yeah, let me know if there is anything that you need from me. Happy to have a look as well on the Python
I'll
SDK.
I'll open the pull request, kind of let you see them. Pretty straightforward. A lot of this automation is already well documented. It's just tailoring it, having the right commands, like the run shell, just fun things to learn like that.
And in terms of what the SDK does, do you think it's in a good state? We could do like a 0.1 release once all these things are ready, or?
Absolutely. I think Eric did an amazing job. I need to review its comparison to other SDKs, but it looks really good. He's a great coder, so I think it would be good. I just want to get some of the automation and get it cleaned up. But yeah, I think it would be in a good state.
Now we can make it as a next step. Cool. Thanks, Evan.
Yeah.
Any question? Or moving on? No? Okay. Next, I just put a placeholder here for testing event. I wasn't sure whether all would join today. I guess the existing PR on testing events will need to be some rebased based on the 0.2 updates. But yeah, otherwise, hopefully we can get that in for 0.3. Then I add tools integrations. So Spinnaker and Jenkins, I don't know if anyone has any update on either of these two they would like to share.
Nothing from my end. I'll reach out to the Spinnaker folks. In terms of the PR for me, it looks good. I just need to get one last set of eyes on it, and then once, preferably like Cameron or Jason, once they get, once that gets approved, we'll get 2 thumbs up, and that can be merged in. I'll ping them after this SIG meeting, and then Jalander, I know, was asking about implementing the actual event type in Spinnaker, and I believe he can get started on it. I don't think that RFC is going to change too much based off the last couple of weeks here from the feedback.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. Like, if you let me know, like, if any approval is there from other folks from Spinnaker, so that will be great. Like, meanwhile, I'm also starting on the actual implementation, like the API and backend parts. So that'll helpful to approve the PR. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, like I said, I'll message Cameron. He's usually the best person to get someone or something merged in. And then if there's any last issues, like that will be visible in the GitHub PR itself. But yeah, like I said, I think we're in a pretty good place. I wouldn't hesitate just to get started on it. And then if you need any help, outside, just like, with Spinnaker or whatnot. I don't know how familiar you are with Spinnaker. I can definitely help you there.
Yeah. Yep.
Great, thanks Ben and Jalander. So do you guys plan on being in Vancouver, by the way, and for the CDCon?
It's still up in the air for me. Travel's restricted for Apple, so it's still up in the air. I might try to just go myself, just out of my own pocket. But we'll see. We'll see. I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, what about you, Jalander?
No, we're not planning to travel, so some restriction on travel again here. So will not be any plans to travel.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, so we had actually accepted talk about CDEvents, but yeah, so due to travel restrictions, we're not able to make that happen. So yeah.
Yeah, that's too bad. Travel restrictions are hitting a lot this time around.
Andrea, have you heard anything about virtual attendance on the CDCon? If that would be possible?
No, I asked whether it would be possible to do like remote presentations, and I was told no, that's not an option.
Be recorded,
So
maybe.
I definitely hope it will be recorded.
I mean, pre-recorded. I mean, if it will be possible to have a pre-recorded session that is streamed there, but maybe that's not a good idea either.
Yeah, I mean, remote presentations, they are usually pre-recorded. So
because I applied for the virtual pass to the open source summit, and also but I saw that CDCon wasn't available to register for virtually, but many of the other co-located events were. So I'm not sure if it will be streamed live.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me go and check with Fatih. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So if it's great that this Spinnaker work is moving along. I mean, if it's ready in time, it would be great to to announce it in the at the event at CDCon in some format. And that's why I was asking whether you guys were planning on being there, because since you're making this happen, it would be great. Yeah. So let's see what happens then.
Yeah, I'll get an answer for you by the end of this week, Andrea, and then we can figure out what we can do from there, if that works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Evan, sorry to put you on the spot. I was wondering, do you have any update, or do you know if anything happened on the Jenkins plugin by any chance?
Yeah, so I started, I think it was a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks. Started with the initial kind of plugin framework for Jenkins. Started with, they have a really nice job listener for the, wanted to start first off with the pipeline run, started, queued, and finished. So I wrote the class to collect the pipeline started, kind of referencing the CloudEvents plugin for Jenkins. It was very well written. Wrote that. We have, for our kind of first iteration, I did 2 sync connectors, one to Kinesis, one to just an HTTP endpoint. So kind of got that framework working, and then wanted to have my awesome teammate Rory work on the pipeline run queued and finished, basically collecting the data and have him go through it, because I'm more of a DevOps person. He's a Java application person, very awesome at that stuff. And he reading through the classes, kind of making changes. But he's been working on the queued and the pipeline finished and doing great.
Cool. So is there, is there any public repo where we can follow progress on these, or is that worked on internally at Fidelity for now?
It's internal. Jamie's going to lead the release in the presentation. I hope that's okay. I'm happy to give updates, but that whole part, Jamie and Jer are leading. So
yeah. Cool. Thanks.
yeah, absolutely.
All right. The last item that I have on the agenda is the connecting events. So I wasn't sure whether you, Ben, and Emil were going to join today, but you're here, so we can discuss about this. Let me get the link to the. Oops. The. Okay. Sorry, I didn't prepare for a discussion on this one to run, so I need to check, or unless anyone, Ben or Emil, you want some specific updates that you wanted to discuss.
Yeah, I think so. I was reading Emil, your section that you wrote for the tracing context. So if we go up to that section, right here. If you go to the cons, if you go to the cons real quick, I really like this. So at the second bullet point, it says less flexibility applied on events levels, but could be instead be applied on a CDEvents level with our own syntax. I think if we're gonna go with tracing, we should go with that approach. I think that makes more sense, because the reason why I say that is one, tracing again is, it's a huge project. So and it's kind of its own thing. So if we make CDEvents like connecting events, I want connecting events to also be its own thing inside of CDEvents. I don't want to make it look like we kind of like just bandaged on a solution, or like a different piggybacking onto tracing, which is completely fine. But like I think we can go with our own syntax, and then potentially even simplify it, because I don't think we'll need everything from tracing. I think we'll probably need a good, maybe like, a good portion of it, but I definitely don't think we'll need like everything. Like one, we'll probably not need, like there's this concept of like joining spans and like that's in the spec, and there's things of like, how to deal with like 128-bit IDs. Like we can get rid of all of that, right, and just focus on the pieces that we need. So I think if we go with the tracing approach, I think going with a simplified, our own syntax solution is probably the best approach in my opinion. So yeah, wanted to get your thoughts on that, Emil and Andrea.
Sorry, just taking notes.
Yeah, no worries.
So I think we need at least the parent-child relationship if we should go for the tracing part. It doesn't make too much sense, at least to me, if we just have a global ID where all events use the same, with no possibility to have hierarchy in the tracing. But I'm sorry, I'm not too used to using these tracing concepts, but I might be wrong. But I think we would need some kind of parent-child relationships, at least in the trace context there, which is, I guess, part of the standard trace context, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We definitely would. And I think that's so in the in this regard, that's what spans. So like you would have this trace ID and then you would have span IDs, and span IDs is kind of like how it references kind of parent. Yeah, well, there's a parent ID, I think, field also in tracing. So yeah, I agree. Let me see if I
Yeah,
can actually
definitely.
find a link.
Yeah, so there definitely is a way to get this relationship, and you can have, I mean, the root level is the trace ID, which is shared across all the tracing events in case of distributed tracing. And then you have spans, and you can have child spans, so you can have this kind of tree type of structure.
Yeah. Trace parent, yeah.
And there's also a lot of trace formats as well, or specifications. So there's open tracing, and then there's W3 tracing, there's Zipkin tracing. So if we choose, like, well, I mean, like, we're going to put our own flavor on it, but like, you know, like I said, just to be aware, there's definitely different different ways of handling parent tracing parent and child relationships, depending on the specification that you go with. Yeah, Zipkin.
Is Zipkin is they have their own format then? They're not
Yeah, they
aligned with-
do.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Zipkin has their own format, but it does also have compatibility with open tracing. Most things have compatibility with open tracing.
Okay. So I think the idea we kind of were getting to last time we discussed about this was to have a kind of possibly a hybrid approach, where we would have a kind of the global ID tracing style, where we can have this parent-child relationship. And that could be used for use cases where you want to see kind of like a distributed transaction or workflow. And then we could also have, in parallel to that or on top of that, links, because links then could have semantic associated, so we could have different type of links similar to what IPO does. And those could be used also to link events across more like longer running or wider spanning workflows, like supply chain scenario, for instance, where I have some packages that are built and generate events, and then I have some other packages which depend on those, and they might reference back to the events of the original packages. Well, even if those happen in different places, different times.
Yeah.
Is this a reasonable summary?
Yeah, I'm still not convinced if the hybrid approach will be easy to use. I mean, it could be a bit what should I say? A bit hard to know which way, which kind should you use in different scenarios, maybe. But maybe we can have examples of that as well to exemplify when one is preferred over the other, if we go for the hybrid approach. But maybe before we go there, I also added a concepts section to this document, just above the alternatives here.
Yes.
Where there is a link to a Wikipedia article about tracing. I think it's
You want me
quite.
to open that?
Yeah, you can open it. So there is a table there, for example, on comparing what they call event logging and software tracing in this. And I think that to me at least makes quite a lot of sense when it comes to events versus traces.
Yeah, that was my biggest concern actually with using tracing, is because tracing is very granular.
Exactly.
And what we're looking for is not granular. We're looking for at an event level, right? And that's why I was thinking like maybe the hybrid approach would work better than tracing. Like I said, we'll still need to figure out tracing, but tracing is not a simple solution. It's very complex. And that's why I'm leaning towards not using it. One, it's very granular. That's not to say we can make it less granular, but I think that's trying to beat something into beat a solution into something it isn't, right? And that's what I was thinking, like maybe if we go with the either a hybrid approach or a different approach altogether might be a better solution. Just kind of starting fresh, starting with the actual use cases that we care about, as opposed to saying, oh, we have all these granular events, how do we make this into a single, or sorry, granular traces to match a single event. So that's kind of like where my thinking was, with tracing. But like I said, we're still in the early stages of diving into how tracing can be used. I still don't know yet whether or not I'm against it, but my intuition says it's probably not going to be the best solution for us.
I think there might be certain scenarios where it could make sense to have the tracing object in the event, maybe additionally or so. But I think that the links, at least to me, makes more sense in many scenarios. But I think, as you say, it's good to look into the use cases or scenarios for these events and the correlated events or connected events, to understand what is best where. But I think this table here is at least starts some thinking in my mind on where we should use either or. And I've actually looked into a bit to flesh this table out as well, to more distinguish on, because we have the same problem ourselves within Ericsson now. But I mean, we want to use OpenTelemetry traces for certain areas, certain data objects that we send on our buses. And we want to use events for others, but we haven't really come up with a good way to distinguish between those two, when to use what kind of data object or messaging system. Because for sure we will use OpenTelemetry for like more server health related things and more getting the status of the system, so to say. But when it comes to the pipeline execution, we will use events, which we then, in our case at least, use links for today all over. But still, we want to reference between these as well. So we want to reference from the event to a trace context or a trace object in some OpenTelemetry tracing system. So that's where we are right now, and we are also struggling a bit to distinguish between tracing and logging, or sorry, tracing and event linking, then I would say.
Yeah, I think they solve similar problems, but they are very different in that like I said, tracing is more granular, right? So tracing, you're going to care about like method to method calls, class to class calls, things of that nature. As events are more of a higher level grouping of these calls, right? Where what you care about is a pipeline run, for example, or a test being started, which can be obviously shown or traced with tracing, right? Or like that flow. But we only need that kind of that entry point and that the closing of that entry point, if that, right? Or yeah, we will only need the start and the end. for the event side of things. So yeah, like I said, in my opinion, like I think a lot of the times you're probably going to see tracing and Eiffel in this case pre-exist in the same code, or like in the same way of dealing with things, I think. But in my opinion, if you find yourself with Eiffel, like I said, I'm not a maintainer or anything, but like when I look at Eiffel, this is how I envision it being used. If you find yourself going more granular with Eiffel, then you probably want to start looking at tracing. That's probably how I would think about it, at least.
Yeah. And we are discussing those boundaries for the Eiffel. As an Eiffel maintainer, I can say that we are also discussing for any new ideas coming up, we should also have an event type for this or that or this. And then we are discussing, should we actually extend the boundaries of the Eiffel protocol to include those kind of detailed events then? And in many cases, we say no, we don't want to have those, like status up or down or health check type of events, for example, because they don't really belong in that domain as we see it, at least. So they belong more in the tracing domain.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Between them, yeah.
And then one thing that might be good though is if there was a way to relate Eiffel events to tracing events, like that might be useful. And maybe that could be thought about some, but because that way, if you have a Eiffel event, you can be like, oh, I can easily get that trace from this Eiffel event somehow, right? And that might be a good way of solving that problem.
Yeah, so that's so thanks for adding these for the discussion about tracing. I also agree. I don't think we, at least I didn't mean to propose when including trace context type of approach that we would go for like a full-blown tracing system based on CDEvents, rather to take inspiration of that one of the existing standards for the format. But yeah, so as you said, Ben, there's probably more features than we need. I'm trying to think how we move forward again from these. I was thinking maybe if we go back to the DORA metrics type of example that we started building, we could for that both for metrics, identify what are the events and what are the sources of those events and what kind of information would the event producer have, and see what kind of connecting would help us better to handle that use case. And we could start, maybe then we have something concrete and a concrete example to see which approach helps us to connect those events better and build the DORA metrics. That could be one example.
That's a good example of use case, I think. Yeah. And I think as well that we could then quite quickly create a pull request for adding the hybrid solution. I mean, adding both the possibility to have trace context and links in the event for now, but they should both be optional then. And then when we go look into the use cases and do hands-on experience with them, I think we can eventually, or maybe do both variants for some of the use cases, DORA, for example, and then we can compare it. Well, what would it look like, and what aspects do we cover? What aspects can we not cover with this type of connecting events or references? So I would think that we would need some hands-on experience with the different ways of connecting the events. And the way to do that would be to, for now, add both in a hybrid way to the protocol. And hopefully when we come to 1.0 of the event protocol, we might have settled with just one of them, or we keep the hybrid. That's for a later discussion, I think.
Yeah, and with the hybrid approach, like I wanted to explain like the difference between like the global ID and the links. So the global ID, the whole purpose of it is just knowing like how to query, or it's basically just allowing for easy querying of the database.
Yeah.
So it allows you to grab like basically it grabs you like a map, right? And then the Eiffel links is like the interstates and the highways that connects like all these, you know, cities and whatnot. So like, you know, the global ID is just giving you that big picture. And then you need to understand the relationship between like all the nodes is done with Eiffel. So global ID gives you all the nodes, but gives you no idea of like how they're connected. Then you use Eiffel to then get those connections.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That's one way to try it out, I think. Yeah. But then it sounds like you don't have a sorry. Then it sounds like you don't have a parent-child context or trace context there. It's just one global ID, I think, then for that use case, or
Right. But like the parent child though would be the Eiffel, right? Like the Eiffel would be the thing that it points back to would be its parent, right?
yeah. But in the trace context, the parent is never a semantic reference. It's just a parent reference. I mean, you cannot have different types of links then in that sense. But maybe that's also another.
Yeah, it
detail.
sounds like something that we could probably flesh out in iPhone potentially, but yeah.
Sorry, Andrea.
I was going to make the same comment pretty much to you, so nothing else to say. Okay. One question. So when you say, Emil, that we could make a PR with the hybrid approach, do you mean actually extending the context to those fields, or sorry, I was just thinking we could also try and use custom data and maybe have some temporary kind of specification of like specific fields within custom data that we could use, so that we don't add them.
Yeah, that's of course.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I definitely think it should live in custom data, just because like it's kind of an up in the air solution right now. And then also on top of that, we can just have it like the custom data just be like, you know, links or content or trace or span context, whatever we want to call it, right? And then just have everything in there. And then once we feel like we can move span context out of custom, or if we ever do decide to move the span context out of custom data, that should be just a simple move that one field into the actual context.
Okay. So basically, you would say in the spec that we have these experimental fields that we can use in custom data. So just give them a name so that we can work with those. And yeah, okay. So I guess my next question would be: is anyone interested in putting a PR up and proposing field name structure for hybrid approach, or for either of the two in custom data?
But do we really need a PR then if we do it in custom data? Because we, up until now at least, haven't had any schemas for the custom data objects ourselves, right? They are very much free.
It might be good just to have like some sort of reference to it, just so people can at least know what to expect when they see the span context. It's just more for the end user that might be interested in getting more information, because like you said, since it's custom data is this loosely defined bag of stuff. If there's no documentation anywhere, it's going to be really hard for people to understand like what the thing they're looking at is, right? So I would vote like to have a PR, like at least giving some guidance to users what this span context or whatever we want to call it is.
I'm thinking if it is really custom data we talk about that, or if it's some other like experimental data. but maybe we can have it in custom data for now. I don't know. I don't want it to disturb if someone. I mean, today no one is using CDEvents for sure yet, but tomorrow in a year or two, if someone is using this 1.0 version of CDEvents, then we cannot really add things to custom data anymore, because the custom data should be free for anyone to use for anything. We shouldn't have any say on what goes in there. So I don't think that, at least in long term, the protocol shouldn't declare anything within custom data. But for sure, for now, since we have custom data, we could of course add something there for now, but then remove it later. Or we had another optional object next to custom data, which we call like experimental data or something. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, if we're gonna have like introduce a new field like experimental, you might as well just put it in the normal spec at that point.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, maybe we do it like that
way, and then we could clearly describe it in the documentation, saying that, well, this is currently there now, but we might just as well remove it in the next release, so that people are aware of it. But
yeah, okay, yeah, maybe that's then the simplest approach, because we are still anyways in a 0. something version area, and yeah, it avoids us to move things around too much, I guess. Yeah, okay. So I'll scratch the line of using custom data. So yeah, that was a good point. Yeah, I guess that's part of the 0.3 work. I would really like to have that in 0.3, at least our initial version, and hopefully if we can get that in as soon as possible within that 0.3 time, then maybe we can build something around it, experiment a bit with it. Okay.
Yeah, I think so I guess what my question is now is, so we're asking for a separate PR now for the spec, right? Is that what you're asking, Andrea?
Yeah, we need to
Okay.
actually make a proposal, a concrete proposal for what it would look like, so we can discuss it then, the details.
So I can have my hand like halfway raised up. I need to first get confirmation that I can do this. Since it's not code, I should be able to do it, but I just need to make sure with legal that I'm allowed to actually write like a full-on proposal. But I don't think it's going to be an issue, but I just need to cross the T's and dot my I's just to make sure. And if they say, yeah, it's not an issue, then I can start constructing a PR. I can let you know by tonight, Andrea, whether or not I can create the PR.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Yep.
That's great. Yeah, so I think we made really good progress. And I think on that note, we are at time. It was really good to meet everyone today. And then, yeah, looking forward to hear from you, Ben. And until next time, then.
Yep. All right. I'll talk to you guys later.
until next time.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.